Everyone, it's now 6:30 p.m.
Recording in progress.
Sorry, Tom. It's now 6:30 p.m. I'd like to call to order the Fenton Township Board meeting on the 16th day of May, 2023. I would ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, everyone. Clerk, will you please
Yes.
call the roll?
Lorraine,
Present.
Reed,
Here.
Patrick. Here. Krug is present. Kessler.
Here.
Gopal is absent. Tucker.
Present.
You have 6 members present.
Thanks, Bob. I'd like to know for the record that Township Attorney Jack Belzer, Operations Manager Tom Broker, our Zoning Administrator Mike Dean, and our Fire Chief Ryan Bolts are also present. Yes. All right. The following township officials are also present virtually, and that is Melissa and Alan Lawrence from Lawrence Engineering. Tom, will you detail the procedures for tonight, for those attending tonight's meeting virtually?
Yes, to the members of the public attending tonight's meeting in person or via Zoom, please be advised this meeting is being recorded to be shown on public access television, Spectrum Channel 191. Recorded meetings are also posted on the Fenton Area Community Television YouTube channel. For those attending via Zoom, we ask that you keep your microphone muted until we reach portions of the meeting where public comment is allowed. For tonight's meeting, there are no public hearings, therefore all public comment will be taken near the end of the meeting. Meeting materials are available for download on the Township's website at fentontownship.org.
Thanks, Tom. All right, moving on to the first business order, which is the approval of the agenda. Are there any requests to amend tonight's agenda? Hearing none, a motion is in order to approve the agenda as presented.
Make that motion.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. I vote yes. Patrick.
Yes.
Kessler.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Gopal is absent. Tucker.
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, the agenda stands approved as presented. Tonight we have Colby Miller here from MedStar to give us the first quarter report. Colby, would you like to come up and give the report? We didn't receive his report electronically early enough, so you should have the report in front of you.
You're welcome to it. Is this good? Good. All right, you have actually the annual report. So this is, the end of April was the first 12 months that we've served the township. And if you remember when we talked a year ago, we said that through the community relationships, we're going to have reliable response times. We believe we're going to reduce response times. We're going to have better engagement with public safety and the EMS organization. And hopefully we would see better engagement with the community. That was the prediction when we started this. So both in the annual report and the attached patient satisfaction survey, I think we're seeing exactly what we said we'd see. So on the first slide, if you will, we had 529 emergency responses, priority 1, that's lights and siren, and 570 non-emergency responses in the township in the year. This one.
I don't think we got all the reports. I only got one report. I didn't get that one. I didn't see that one. They just came in.
You know what, I
You
will-
sent 2 of them.
And
Okay.
one of them might have been in a protected thing.
Yes.
I will talk through it and then make sure that you get a copy of it afterwards for everyone to see. So we do focus, and MedStar continues to focus on reducing emergency responses with good first response partners and good priority dispatch. The idea of running lights and siren all over town for patients who most likely don't need it is unsafe. So a lot of our efforts are to reduce those emergency responses, but still provide timely service. So we're happy to see that although only a little bit, less than half of the responses in the township were lights and siren. Still providing good service, not running lights and siren all over the place. The request reasons that you'll see when you get the packet, the most frequent request on the emergency side was difficulty breathing, followed by unconscious, sick person, chest pain and seizures. You've got the top 15 requests printed out for you in the report that you'll have, but pretty standard list of chief complaints for emergency patients. And then on the response outcomes, 50% of the requests from Fenton Township were transported non-emergency to the hospital. About 20% were transported emergency status, and the remainder of the other 30% were refusals of one or cancellations of one type or another. Canceled during the response, canceled on scene, or no patient found. So, you know, that distribution of those requests also takes us back to the idea of running lights and sirens to get to so many patients, when the reality of it is the vast majority of them aren't suffering from an emergency. The emergency response time performance in the township was an average of 6.58 minutes. The distribution is pretty even across the 5, 6, 7, and 8 minute response times. There are some 10s and higher, but they're a vast majority, you know, they're a far minority compared to the majority of the responses that are in that 6, 7, and 8 range. We also track second unit response, so some of the longer responses that we see are a second ambulance coming to a scene where there's already an ambulance there. So theoretically, if we went back and filtered some of this stuff, some of the longer ones would go away because there's care already on the scene. On the non-emergency request side, the average response time, I don't have the average data printed, but from looking at the distribution, it looks like it's about 7 minutes. And they go all the way up to about 25 minutes. Sounds like a long number, but when we're talking about sprained ankles and upset stomachs and things like that, that screening takes place in dispatch and lets us know that it's okay to not run lights and sirens those calls. There is, and it surprised me when I saw it, at first I thought, no, this is some data anomaly, there's something wrong here. There was one 56-minute non-emergency response in the township, and even for non-emergencies, that was very surprising. It shows up on your report because I'd rather be transparent and explain things than explain things and hide them. It was called in as a known psych, a court-ordered stipulation transport. So we're ordered by the court to go pick up a patient for a psychiatric inpatient admission, but because it occurs, and we prioritize that call as we get to it when we get to it. So if we're moving ambulances around, covering posts, covering other calls, something that's a known request like that just sits there until we get to it. So if anybody ever says there was an hour-long response in the township, that's exactly right, but we were working on a court-ordered psychiatric transport. The other thing that we like to do, and you saw it in the last report that I presented, we pay very careful attention to the non-emergency dispatches to make sure that we're not missing emergency responses when we're filtering these calls down to non-emergencies. Of the 569 non-emergency dispatches in the township during the period, there were 2 that were transported by Siren. So of 569 requests that were built into the dispatch system, there were 2 that went to the hospital on a higher priority. That's a pretty good number. I mean, we would like it to be none, and neither of the patients had an adverse outcome. So they were transported for the purpose of distance. No negative feedback from township residents during the quarter. The patient satisfaction survey that you do have, 98.15% top box patient satisfaction. And I'm proud to report, although I don't put it in front of the data from the township resident, I will explain to you in the report that you have, there is a graph, Bob's got it open right now, with a green shade down the column. The shading on the graph is the MedStar performance, and the other categories on the graph are the other large companies that are in our benchmark. The reason that green line is so important is that green shading highlights the category leader. So when you see green shading all on one column, we led every category in the benchmark. So this is the first quarter of the year, and these are the largest services in the country. So we led the National Patient Satisfaction benchmark for the first quarter of 2023. We led every category in the benchmark. So those are the providers that are treating patients in Fenton Township today. We continue to work well with Chief Voles. We've worked on some CPR and now EMS CE credits at the fire department. As Ryan said earlier tonight in some of our conversations, we're getting more regular crews in the township now. We're building up the relationships with the firefighters that are on the scene, smoothing out the experience for the patient, more regular interaction, quicker follow-up when we have to follow up. Sometimes we follow up before calls just to make sure things are going well, and if there's a bump on the scene, we take care of it afterwards. So, as we predicted, the strengthening of the relationship when it's one provider benefits everybody in the system. In the slideshow, you'll also see that I provided some patient satisfaction survey data, although it looks like I managed to get it down to about 2-point font, so you might not be able to read it terribly well. And then I want to take just a second to talk about some of the feedback that's floating around. I talked to a TV news reporter this afternoon about feedback from other communities about the response times. And very, very briefly, it's interesting to me, and it's a little confusing to me, that the communities who chose not to have EMS contracts are still taking issue with the communities who did choose to use contracts. And the one thing that they keep bringing up is that in their view, their response times haven't improved. And they're looking at two things. They're looking at raw central dispatch data, and so any data error that our CAD sends to central doesn't get fixed on the central end. Anytime one of our crews doesn't punch on scene, and we put them on scene 15 minutes later because we know they're there, that time transmits to central dispatch. We fix those in our CAD. We go back and fix the data, so we use the GPS to show when the ambulance showed up. If you look at raw data out of central dispatch, that's not a valid data perspective. The other thing, and not so much Fenton Township, but all of the communities will say, and I'll use the city of Davidson as an example, the fire department would blow their budget by April going on medical responses. In the January to December budget, they were out by April going on medicals. The city manager said at the end of last year, this is the first year our fire department will come in under budget. So hearing the communities who don't have contracts talk about the contracts not working in the communities that do, when the communities who do have contracts say, oh, I'm glad we finally did this, it is a little unusual. And I've challenged the people from the other communities to ask us if they want our data. And every time I challenge, it's no response. So we're open for any questions that you have as a board, any of the residents, anybody that wants to dig deep into the data. For the first 6 months, every call can be replayed on GPS tracking, so you can actually watch the vehicle driving to the scene and do it with a stopwatch if there's any questions about the time. So there's some stones being thrown from outside. I can't figure it out, and we've made the offer to all those communities again to join what has turned out to be a very stable offer for all the communities, and they don't even respond to emails. So, happy to take questions?
Before we take questions from the board, I know that you all know this, but I just wanted to remind the board that we had an issue. Our response times were 15 to 17 minutes. About 18 months ago, the chief came to me with a problem. This board was very open-minded, empowered the chief to go out and find a solution. The chief found a solution, came back to this board, and the board did it, and it was a great decision. So, and I do hear the same stories. I've attended a few of the 911s, and we know who those communities are that don't like what we're doing, but we know going from a 15 to 17 minute to under 7, we've done the right thing for our residents, so we appreciate it. Any questions from the board at all for Colby?
Colby, I noticed in your customer relations, I chuckled when it come down to comfort of the ride in the ambulance. Do I really care if I'm uncomfortable, if I'm in an ambulance going to the hospital?
You know, one of the things that, in that survey, when it goes out, it's a separate company, they mail them out, and they bring them back, and every handwritten comment they transpose for us, so they transcribe, so we can read them. You would be surprised at the number of people who comment on, get better shocks, or it feels like I'm riding in a truck,
Well,
didn't like riding backwards. And we're just like, you know what, if that's,
Biggest problem you got?
that's right.
Yeah.
I mean,
You're
there's
still breathing?
things we can work on, but some of the things,
You're
it's
still
a truck and
in-
you're still riding backwards. But we ask, and you know what, we do benchmark it. So we benchmark our comfort of the ride to everybody else in the country, and at least it's valuable in the benchmarking, in comparing us to the other agencies.
Yeah, it just jumped out at me when, why do I care?
A lot of the feedback, yeah. Truck left big ruts in my driveway. It's a big truck. What they do.
Any other questions from the board? Chief, is there anything that you would like to comment on?
I'd just like to thank Kobe for standing up and actually doing it. I mean, we took a lot of grief over this, and at the 911 meetings took a lot of flack over it.
We did.
The stone throwers are still there, the supporters of the broken system are still there. Just because they have, I don't know if they have a connection to the broken system or whatever it is, but this new system, we knew it would work. We just had to get it implemented, and here we are. So
Throughout the contracted communities, since we began service, there has not been 1 minute of no ambulance available. That was a daily occurrence in Genesee County.
zero critical status
None.
in any of the protected areas. Zero. It's a daily critical status in the county on the non-contracted areas. Daily. Sometime in 6 hours.
Colby, are you seeing, we've got one covering Fenton Township, are you hitting other communities that don't have contracts with you?
So when we get when our vehicles are distributed across the contracted areas so that we feel we've got adequate coverage, then rather than increasing coverage in those communities, because again, you can only, it does, between 1 million and 2, there's no reason to do
Yeah.
that. We will put resources into the rest of the system. So we do respond, we're the leading provider, I think, in 2 or 3 other townships
Okay.
who don't even have contracts. We will also, when Central Dispatch calls us and says, we are out of ambulances in the county, will you make yours available to us? We will reposition within our contracted service areas so that we can make resources available to other communities. We go into Argentine quite a bit. We go into Grand Lake Township quite a bit. So we're not completely walled off from the rest of the county. I think in the month I remember looking at, and it was a couple of months ago, 570 some responses in a month in the rest of the county. So there have been changes in EMS providers in the county. 1 has gone out of business, 2 have merged, so the system is changing around us. But all of the providers are distributing our resources as best we can throughout the county. But with our system, what's different is, first come the contracted communities. When there's 2 trucks available, we put them where they need to be. When there's 3, we distribute them. When we get up to 5 or 6, then we start moving them out into the other communities and provide the best service we can.
I only asked you because I thought it was important you pointed that out.
We do, we responded to a lot of other communities.
Chief, I know that we were one of the first to sign an agreement with MedStar.
It was us and Davison. The Davison chief and I were kind of spearheading, bouncing ideas back and forth off each other.
How many municipalities now in Genesee County do we have? I know there was like,
We had 16.
there was like 2, and now you're up to like
I think it's 14.
14.
14.
The entire east side, from the villages and the city and all the townships, all the way down M15. Fenton City, Fenton Township. City of Swartz Creek, Mundy Township, Gaines Township, Village of Gaines, Village of Otisville, Village of Goodrich. So there's some very small communities, but they all.
City of Linden.
City of Linden.
I know, Lynn,
So they're all, and then they all get the same, the same data, the same information. The response times are a little bit different when you get a little further out into the lower response areas. But even in Gaines Township, and I tell this story all the time, I probably gotta find a new one. When we first started, the Gaines chief came up, Chief Herman, and said, for the first time ever, an ambulance crew asked us to move our truck. And I thought, oh no, we've offended the fire department within the first week, how did we do this? And I said, I'm sorry, I didn't, if they were rude to you, and he said, no, we've never had an ambulance in the driveway before our fire truck got there. We had to back the fire truck out of the driveway so you could take the patient to the hospital. That's never happened in Gaines Township. So all of these communities, even in the far out ones where you think it is a long response time, it's longer, but it's far more reliable than it used to be. It's far more consistent, and we're getting there ahead of the first responders quite often.
Last question I would have, this is mainly for the residents, is that during that vetting process, the chief and I went through, I think, 2 or 3 meetings with you, and some of the metrics that we talked about, we don't need to discuss those metrics, but, like cash reserves, are all those in the same position, or at least close to where they were?
Cash isn't as good quite as it was before. The operating cost of EMS has gone up quite a bit, as you would expect in the last couple of years. But from a days cash on hand perspective, we're fine. We're still a fully cash. We use cash for all of our functions where there's no debt. All of the fleet metrics are fine. We can't replace ambulances as fast as we'd like to. We're still running trucks that are, I think there are trucks in our fleet right now that are 2 years older than we'd like them to be. But we're still waiting on last year. It's May of this year, and we're waiting on last year's fleet to start to arrive. So as the system resets, the metrics go back to where they belong, but it's a slow climb.
A lot of commend MedStar also for the community involvement that you guys do, and I guess the pro bono work that you are out there doing in the community, from life-saving classes and things like that. So
We appreciate it. It is, my belief is, and hopefully throughout the organization, we don't see it as a vendor relationship, we see it as a partner relationship, and when you're partners with a community or a group, you engage in a way that's meaningful to them, not just for the business objectives.
any other questions? Colby, thank you very much for that first quarter or first year report.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
See you soon.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, moving on to the next business order, which is the meeting minutes, including the packet of the meeting minutes for the April 18th regular meeting and also the April 26th special meeting. Are there any corrections or requested revisions to those meeting minutes? Hearing none, meeting minutes stand approved as presented. Moving on to the next business order, which is the expenditures. Are there any questions from the board regarding any of the invoices?
There's an invoice in there for 4 tree removals under grounds maintenance. Can you talk to me about that?
What's the name of the vendor? I think I know which one it
Well, that's a fine question, but I looked at it. I've slept since I've looked at it.
is. Allied Tree?
Tree removal at Alliance Property Management.
Alliance, I was close.
Yeah,
Okay,
Alliance are
yeah.
underneath
So
that.
we have a property on the channel on Horrell, on, where our pump station is. We own the pump station lot and another piece there. There were 2 trees that were leaning over the water, impeding boaters, and 2 other dead ones that were going to be in the same condition eventually. So we had them removed. So because they had to actually go into this little island to get them out, it was a little more costly than a typical tree removal.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions for Tom? Hearing none, a motion is in order to approve the expenditures totaling $784,867.86 for payment.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk Crew, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Reed,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Gopel is absent, Lorraine.
Yes.
I vote yes, Patrick.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, expenditures stand approved as presented. The next business order is public hearings. Tonight we have none. Moving on to reports. Are there any committee reports to be made to the board this evening? Any committee reports? All right, moving on to the next business order, which is communications. This evening we have none. Next is adoption of ordinances. We have rezoning number R23-002, the Genesee County Drain Commission, WWS, parcel number 06-01-200-051, which is the physical address of 11233 Fenton Road, R-MH to R3. This is the second reading and the vote on the adoption. This is the second reading of the proposed zoning ordinance amendment to rezone property located at the intersection of Fenton and Thompson Roads from R-MH to R3, which was introduced at the April 18th meeting. Zoning Administrator Dean can answer any questions. Any questions for Mike at all?
Is that the dog?
No, so it's the, where the water
Okay.
tower's going,
Water tower.
so it's across the street from there. It's currently zoned for mobile home park. When we updated the master plan, it's not an appropriate zoning for that anymore. We have an applicant, so we're having them rezone it. After the master plan is updated, there's probably some other properties around there that we're gonna wanna rezone. But it's the first.
Of many to come. Are there any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, I need a motion to adopt an amendment to zoning ordinance number 594 to rezone parcel number 06-01-200-051 from R-MH to R3 as presented.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk Crew, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Patrick,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
I vote yes, Gopel is absent, Tucker,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right. Moving on to unfinished business. This evening we have none. Moving on to new business. This is a new hire, Fenton Township Fire Department. We have our Fire Chief Bolts. Will you review?
We're pleased to report that we have another applicant for the Fenton Township Fire Department. It's Lucas Barrow. He came from Mount Morris Station 1. He is certified Fire 1 and 2 and has all the proper credentials except for medical to start running with us, which he'll gain probably within the next year. And we just looked for your approval to put him on.
All right, Chief. Thank you. Is there any comments or questions from the board for the Chief? Nothing? Okay, I need a motion to approve the hiring of Lucas Barrow as a member of the Fenton Township Fire Department as recommended by Fire Chief Bolts.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk Crew, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Gopel is absent, Tucker,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
I vote yes, Reed,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, thanks.
You gonna swear him in right now, Tom? Is Tom gonna swear him
Yeah,
right now?
Tom, would you I'd like to swear Lucas in as a new member of our Fenton Township Fire Department.
Give me my
Okay.
camera, give him over here. Give him my customer.
There you go.
Okay, raise your right hand, please. I, Lucas Barrow,
I, Lucas Barrow,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to faithfully execute the duties
to faithfully execute the duties
of firefighter for the Charter Township of Fenton,
of firefighter for Charter Township of Fenton,
to selflessly serve the citizens of Fenton Township,
Pardon me.
to selflessly serve the township,
citizens of Fenton
citizens
Township,
of Fenton Township,
with respect, integrity, and excellence,
with respect, integrity, and
and to uphold the mission of the Fenton Township Fire Department,
to uphold the mission of the Township Fire Department,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of
the
Michigan,
Constitution of the State of Michigan,
and the laws and ordinances of Fenton Township,
and the laws and ordinances of Fenton Township.
so help me God.
So help me God.
You're in.
Congratulations.
I'll get you set up with Chief, and we'll get you here.
Anything else, chief?
No, that's it.
That's it? All right. Next under new business, the appointments to the Fenton Township Planning Commission. The terms of planning commissioners Jim McGurk and Andy Marco will expire on May 31st.
Thank you.
Both gentlemen have done an excellent job on the planning commission, and both have indicated they wish to continue serving on this very important board. I am recommending that both Mr. McGurk and Mr. Marco be reappointed to 3-year terms. Apologize. 3-year terms on the Fenton Township Planning Commission. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Okay, I will like to make the motion to reappoint James D. McGurk Jr. to the Fenton Township Planning Commission for the term ending May 31st, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Kessler,
Yes.
Krug votes yes. Reed,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Cottrell,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Gopel is absent. Motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, second, I'd like to make the motion to reappoint Andrew N. Marco of the Fenton Township Planning Commission for the term, to the Fenton Township Planning Commission to the term ending May 31st, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Tucker,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Gopel is absent. Kessler,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Cottrell.
Yes.
God, I should vote no just because I know it. For the last.
I was waiting for that.
I
I actually was waiting for it.
I'll vote yes. Motion passes.
All right, thanks. Next on our new business is proposed building official employment agreement, Stuart Worthing. Presented for board consideration is an employment agreement to hire Stuart Worthing as Fenton Township's building official. If approved, Mr. Worthing would become the full-time salaried employee of the township and serve as the township's building official, with responsibilities for enforcement of the Michigan Construction Code, including oversight of the electrical, mechanical, and plumbing permits and inspection. Just to remind the board, as you know, we have a lot going on in the township, and this board has met before, we've discussed this, and this puts us in a perfect position to where now we have Stuart working as an independent contractor, and we do the other 3 trades through the state. And it can take a long time, it's not efficient, and I like the fact that we have more oversight, we can control every step of the process, and I think this is the best move that this board's going to make. So it's a win-win for everybody. I'm certainly, Mike, is there anything you'd like to add as far as for your department and the efficiencies? And
I think an important aspect of this whenever we're hiring someone is how, funding is gonna come from. And one of the good things about the building department is that it's really self-funding. We're gonna talk about some of the changes to the fee schedule a little bit here. And the fees themselves are intended to cover the cost of the inspectors, the building official, and staff.
including admin allocations and things like that. So it's not an expense to the township. Okay. Are there any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, I need a motion to approve the employment agreement for building official Stuart Worthing as presented.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Lorraine,
Yes.
Cottrell,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Gopel is absent. Tucker,
Yes.
I vote yes. Reed,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you, Bob. Next under new business is proposed independent contractor agreement, electrical inspector. This is a proposed independent contractor agreement for mechanical and plumbing inspector also. Then this is the next step in taking over enforcement authority of the Michigan electrical, mechanical, and plumbing codes, is to contract with licensed inspectors, plan reviewers for each code. Presented for board consideration are independent contractor agreements for Ronald Merritt, he's a licensed electrical inspector and plan reviewer, and Scott Herzberg?
Herzberg.
Herzberg, all right, licensed mechanical and plumbing inspector and plan reviewer. Both individuals are experienced inspectors and plan reviewers, and both are recommended by building official Stuart Worthing. Are there any questions or comments from the board? None? Okay, I need a motion to approve the independent contractor agreement with electrical inspector Ronald Merritt as presented.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Kessler,
Yes.
Gopel is absent, I vote yes. Reed,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. Next, I need a motion to approve the independent contractor agreement with mechanical and plumbing inspector Scott Hertzberg as presented.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Gopel is absent, I vote yes. Reed,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right. Moving on to the next new business is proposed updates to the Fenton Township fee schedule. Operations manager broker, why don't you first go over it and we can have our zoning administrator follow up.
So we've got a combination of things going into this overall update. We had the water and sewer fees that the board approved earlier this year being incorporated into the overall fee schedule. And then Mike and his team worked on developing the fee schedules for the electrical, mechanical, and plumbing permits, since that's a new service we're offering. We also took the opportunity to update several other things marked in red throughout the schedule. I'd be happy to answer any questions on any of the stuff that I worked on. I'll let Mike answer anything on the building and zoning side. Mike, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, so the fee schedule for electrical, plumbing, and mechanical is the exact same fee schedule for the state, right? So, you know, we're looking to improve services to the residents of the township at the same cost that they'd be, you know, pulling their permits with the state. Figured, you know, we have to have a good fee schedule, and if we follow that, we can provide better service. Then we also made some minor adjustments to some of the residential building permit items. Basically, we added ramps to clarify how we treat those, sunrooms and zoning compliance fee. I think we updated some of the engineering fees based on their updated contract with us. Before, we just had as, you know, a pass-through, now we actually have what those fees would be based on their contract. We've also simplified the sign permit application, requiring just a flat fee as opposed to a 5 cents per square foot calculation. Once we get done with short-term rentals, the next ordinance we'll be looking at is a sign ordinance. There's a number of outdated items on there that need to get addressed sooner rather than later.
Thanks, Mike. Is there any other questions or comments from the board?
When would we impose a zoning compliance fee?
So there are times when we get requests from mortgage lenders or,
Okay, I went there, all right, understand.
and depending on the extent of information that's required.
Because all of our parcels are supposed to have zoning compliance, so we can send $100 bills to everybody in the township, right? No, that's, I'm just
That's
kidding.
probably not something
I'm
we
just-
want to vote on.
All I can say is I think that this board has been so supportive of the team and the management team that they have here, and I think we just took a big step in the right direction. I know, being a business person, how hard it is sometimes to deal with the state. Not saying that in a negative way, but we can control the process now from residential, commercial, from the minute they start to the day they open up their door. We can control the time, we can control the process, and that's important. And we can do it at no cost to the township, and we don't have to raise fees our residents or any other businesses that are coming into our township. Anything else? All right, I need a motion to adopt the revised Charter Township of Fenton schedule of fees as presented.
So moved.
Support.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Kessler,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
I vote yes. Cottrell,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Gopal is absent. Tucker,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, moving on to the next business order, which is board comment. Is there anyone on the board who has additional comments or concerns?
Just had a comment. I did notice that we're disseminating a questionnaire, which I was glad to see because I know we put things in the paper and we do social media, but, I did get a survey in the mail about the short-term rental ordinance, and I'm hoping that the residents of the township make their opinions known. I know I've talked to a couple of
There.
people I know, friends and neighbors, and said, please, if you feel strongly about it or have any opinions at all, please share them, because it's a big issue, and I know a lot of communities are looking at it right now. So,
I've taken numerous calls from presidents of the Lake County Property Owners Association. So their involvement, they're having meetings, they're talking about it at their meetings. Mike has done an amazing job, hovering around 30,000 feet, watching over this, looking at the details. He's the one who decided on doing the mail. So, and we're covering it on our social media, we're doing everything. So the responses, I think he just told me today, were
230 so far.
Good.
And they just got mailed out on Friday.
Like I said, I just got mine in the mail yesterday.
I just got mine today.
Yeah.
And we're already
Already
at
at
230.
And we've gotten 40 responses, paper responses back already.
He said they actually walked him in his
Yeah.
township.
Yeah, they're all being walked in, we haven't received any
Yeah,
mail yet.
which is amazing. So it's working, what we're doing is working, and and no resident can say we don't listen to.
Yeah, just a little bit of background, for the past couple of years, state's been debating a bill that would take local communities' control away from being able to regulate short-term rentals. So we've sort of had this on the back burner, as something to watch and what the state's gonna do. And at this point, we feel comfortable in that the state's not gonna move forward with that. Also, since the pandemic, we've had an increase in complaints related to short-term rentals. So the planning commission has begun to do their research on short-term rentals to determine if or what regulations are necessary. It's important that we have input from the public, so that's why we've sent out, I think it was over 6,000 mailings is what we did. And, going over social media, to try and get the online response. We've talked with Tri-County Times. I hope there's an article on Wednesday. If not, there should be one in Sunday's paper.
She said one of the two.
So we're trying to get the word out on that.
Good. I'd be interested to see what the results are. See how
Well, there's
people
a
are weighing in.
diversity of opinion on it, and we didn't come into it with a particular tack in mind, so I think it cost us about $5,000 to do it. I think it's $5,000 really well spent. So I think we need to hear what people have to say about it, and I've been getting a lot of conversation about it from residents myself, so
Yeah.
it does appear to be a fairly hot button topic, or at least a timely topic at the minimum.
And I like the fact that the planning commission took it very seriously, because we are very unique. It's kind of simple. I look at it comparing Traverse City. Yes, you have lakes up there, you have water up there, but we're almost underwater, as our sewer system will tell you. So the bottom line is we have a lot of riparians out here, and you've got a lot of different concerns. It's a little different than in the city. It's easy to pass, I think, something in the city more so than it is a riparian. And we've got a very diverse community with a lot of, so I look forward to looking at what all the residents have to say. I think it's gonna give the tools that the planning commission needs to make a responsible, before the responsible decision or, anyway, anything else?
Yeah, I would just like to thank Tom for helping me or leading me through another successful election. The proposal did not pass, but the election and the workers went off without any issues, so, that's another star on Tom and the people that we have worked. The other, I get a lot of questions now that people see water pipes at the corner of Torrey and Thompson about a drop dead date. Do we have one, or?
You know, we had a
If we
meeting
don't-
today, Mike,
Well, what do you mean by drop dead date?
phase one.
They can see water.
Oh, yeah, so I think that phase one totally would be done by
By
the
when?
end of the year.
Okay,
I thought phase one, I think is September, end of
Okay.
September, I thought. I may be wrong.
Well, yeah,
Melissa gave us an update today, kind of,
phase two will be done, so I guess there's really two different answers, right? Is
Right.
when can people start accessing it and when is it done? Because, you know, the infrastructure will be put in, you know, before all the restoration is done,
yeah.
right? And they need to get to a certain point of completion before they can turn on the tap, so the water has the appropriate pressure and X, Y, and Z. So phase one is supposed to be done late fall.
right.
Phase two will technically be done this year, and with the school most likely being allowed to hook up. For residents and businesses, it'll most likely not be until the spring when they'll be able to hook up.
Well, I was more concerned, I'd love, if we can, to get it to the schools, especially the old high school, now the middle school. I think it affects anybody in the township that has a child that's going there or will go there next year, so.
So the goal is to have the schools hooked up and allow them to hook up before anyone else.
Yep, that is in the works. We had a meeting about a month ago. Their maintenance engineer was here. I've had 2 meetings with Julie, the superintendent of Lake Fenton Schools. They are ready. They can't wait to tap in. So we're doing everything we can in phase one and phase two to make sure that the schools are if not the first, they will, as soon as they're turned on, they will be ready to go.
Thank you.
So what is the prognostication as to when the faucet will be open?
So phase one will still be this year. Phase two will likely be March, April of next year.
Okay.
I'd like to be able to see the kids use the water fountains and stuff, instead of bottled water, and their cost at cleaning what water they're getting is gonna be a good thing for the schools.
So again, the goal for the school is before Christmas.
Right, that's what I remember was before Christmas. It wasn't we weren't gonna make the September when they went back to school. But, yeah, you're right, Bob, the arsenic mitigation, the cost that they're spending, plus I think they have one of the units that are as at retirement right now, which is $200,000, so the schools are extremely happy. It was a great move, if nothing more, just for the schools.
Thank you.
And thank you for the election, talking about the election, because even though it didn't,
Did it pass in the township?
no.
It lost by,
Well, 69 votes total, I'm talking about in
yeah,
the
it lost by, I
township.
think it lost by 6 votes in the township.
In the township, okay.
I'm learning every day from Tom about elections, and I love it. I actually enjoy it. But one of the things Tom talked about was that AV has changed the way, because usually on an election like this, you'd have only those people that were really passionate about one way or the other would show. Now it's very easy, so, people that are on the permanent AV, and they get that in the mail, and it's simple for them now, they just check a box and put it back in the mailbox. So hopefully that won't change the dynamic, but I think it's gonna take time for that to work itself out, so.
Well, Tom just told me that we have about 30% of the eligible to vote township residents on AVs. The turnout at the polls was, light is an understatement.
Well, yeah.
At noon, I think we had 60 people,
Oh.
so, but,
And what was the total vote count? in the township?
It was 374 at the polls, 1307 AVs, and so just under, it's a little over 20% turnout for the Lake Fenton voters. So the turnout percentage was not terrible for a special election. It was much higher in Fenton Township than it was in Lundy Township With Fenton and Grand Blanc, there's such a small voter population there, it's hard to put a lot of emphasis on the percentage turnout there. But Mundy has a significant number, and their percentages were in the low to mid-teens.
They were the ones holding up the vote?
They had some unusual technical issues.
Yeah. Understatement. If I give you an idea, John, at 3:30 on election day, Grand Blanc Township had not any voter.
Well, they have just a small precinct.
Yeah,
of
very
voters,
small,
and
but-
They ended up with 5 in-person voters the whole
Wow.
day, and I think 60 AVs.
Wonder how much that cost per vote.
I'll tell you the total later, John.
All right, any other board comments? All right, moving on to public comment on agenda or non-agenda items. We'll now open up the meeting for public comment on agenda or non-agenda items. First, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board? Yes, sir. All right, stand up, just give us your name.
Jeff Gottrin.
Uh-huh.
I live right down the street on Mantawaka.
Okay.
We've had a lot of construction on the street, a lot of heavy equipment, whatever. We got a lot of potholes, stuff like that. And it's pretty tough to get down there without. And I didn't know if there was anything that could be done to like make the street, passable without like,
Serpentine.
yeah.
Do you want to go over that,
So-
Tom, or you want me to go over it?
Well, I mean,
Certainly.
have they been out patching yet?
No,
Okay, they've been patching some of the primary roads and local roads, so I'll make sure it gets on the list, because I believe they are doing hot asphalt patching now. So that's the short-term fix.
yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Just as long as, we got some big potholes, and it rains and it fills up and whatever, but it's pretty bad right now.
So you'll take care of that, Tom.
But we've had a lot of
Okay.
construction on the road this past year, with new homes and stuff and remodels and whatever, and so anything that can be done, be appreciated.
We'll get it on the
We'll do
list.
it, we'll get it on the list.
Is that a local?
So Tom's got pulled,
It's a
but
residential.
Residential?
Yeah.
just as a public service
So-
announcement, so people know, you can go on the Genesee County website. They do have a place where you can report potholes, and they will respond within a couple of days. I have used it before, I've had, neighbors that have used it before, and it actually does work. So,
Oh.
just FYI, I
That's
think a
good
lot of
information. I
people
didn't even know
don't
that.
know about it, but there is a place on their website where you can report those.
I would be redundant.
But,
Let Tom do his
but
work, and
Tom's
I'd
a
still
much
get it.
better resource.
Well, right, but I'd still, I
Absolutely.
would do the redundancy, I would just I would get on their website and fill it in. All right, anybody else that's here this evening that's attending? All right, nobody else, we'll move on to Zoom. Is there anybody that is attending this meeting via Zoom that would like to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items? Mark, okay,
Mr. Lorraine, another well-run meeting as always.
well, thank you.
I have a little bit of an embarrassing situation. I got a new laptop and I have lost the password, the guest password for the room you're in. And I'm wondering who I contact to get that from.
Call me,
For the
I'll
late
charge you.
property
Mark.
improvement. Sorry?
What's he talking about, password?
Password for the Zoom, you're in the Zoom.
No, for the guest password for the internet in the room you're in,
Oh, for the
Oh.
Wi-Fi.
The Wi-Fi?
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi, so that we can do Zoom.
Oh, for when you're here.
Oh, yeah, I was.
Right.
What you're saying. I was
Now
gonna say,
I
what's gonna
understand.
work your house?
We'll make sure we get it for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No one in the property owner seems to remember it.
Mark, Tom will get it to you. You got
Very
his
good.
email.
Thank
don't
you,
Tom?
sir.
Yeah, he's got your email, Mark,
I-
he'll email it.
Actually, if you send me an email or call me tomorrow, I'll get it for you.
Okay, Tom, thank you.
Anybody else that's attending via Zoom that would like to address the board? Don, you've got your mic. Oh, Melissa, go ahead.
I have some water main dates if you want them.
Oh, certainly.
Phase 1 water main projected right now should be operational and in use July of this year. Phase 2 is projected to be awarded in August, and if it happens and goes as planned, it'll be available for everybody, including the schools, in February of '24.
Wow.
Melissa, thank you very much. So I'm sure you covered that in our meeting today, but I forgot the dates. And I didn't even think of going to you at the time, so shame on me. Thank you, Melissa. Is there anything else, Melissa?
Oh, that's it.
All right. Anybody else? Don?
He already
I think
chatted.
he's got a chat that said nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see it. All right.
Mid-Michigan now is.
Mid-Michigan? All right.
You're muted if you're trying to
So-
say anything.
Yeah. So we've addressed those that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Nobody that's here. Hearing nothing, it is now 7:21 PM. If there's nothing else, I say good evening and the meeting is adjourned.
Good meeting.